Order, if you would, please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, commissioners, you've had some time to review the minutes for last month. Any additions, deletions? Or a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. I will turn it over to Mr. Tyndall for announcements.
All right. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting here for June. We do have a few announcements, and then I'll announce the deferrals here in a moment. First bit of announcement is if you do have a city zoning case that you would like to follow through the process, typically the city meets the first Thursday of the month for their public hearing and voting session, but they've moved that to July 1st because of the July 4th holiday. They didn't want to have it on July 3rd. So next Tuesday, July 1st, will be the public hearing and the first reading of any city zoning cases at 6 p.m. over at City Hall. I'm going to list out the deferrals here. These cases are going to be deferred to next month, so if you're here for any of these cases, they will come back next month. First case, commissioners, deferred Z23 2025 on the first page. Brian Wolf is the applicant for Bellamy Lane, Warfield Boulevard, deferred 1 month. Over to page 4, the Planning Commission staff is deferring Z04 2024. I think we can probably get that on the agenda next month. It is amending digital message boards and lighting restrictions for Madison Street and other overlay districts. Over onto page 7 under subdivisions, S25 2025 Clarksville Fencing and the Industrial Development Board is deferred 1 month. On the next page, page number 8, S36 2025 application of David Phillips, preliminary plat of Ireland Way Commercial Subdivision is deferred 1 month. On the next page, number 10, these are under site reviews now. SR 34 2025 Casey's General Store at 125 Sango Drive, deferred 1 month. Over on page 11, SR 47 2025 Bill Mace Stone Crossing at 261 Stone Crossing Drive, deferred 1 month. Page number 12, SR 48 2025 Legacy Nursery and Landscaping General Partnerships, deferred 1 month. And the final case on page 13, SR 51, application of David Phillips for Ireland Way Retail. We have deferred the subdivision, also have to defer the site review for 1 month. Commissioners, I'll take that in the form of a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a properly made second on the deferrals. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Those items have been deferred. All right, as we start to move into the cases today, I want to remind everybody we are going to have a public hearing on each one of them. We will allow 3 people to speak in favor, 3 people to speak against. You have 3 minutes, and then there will be an opportunity for one of the folks that are in favor to rebut if they like. Also, I would like to remind everyone on the zoning cases that this body is providing recommendations to the City Council and the County Commission. So if you're interested in these zoning cases, you need to follow them to the County Commission or the City Council. The dates and times are on the agenda today. You can call the staff here or the County Commission or City Council if you need, Mayor's Office, if you need any more information. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Mr. Spanhauer.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Our first city zoning case is Z25 2025. The application of Faith Investments. The request is to go from O1 Office District to M1 Light Industrial District. It's a parcel fronted on the western frontage of Alpine Drive, approximately 420 feet west of the West Dunbar Cave Road and Alpine Drive intersection. The reason for the request stated by the applicant is to better align with the surrounding M1 zoning and uses. This request is just under half an acre at .44. It would be an extension of the M1 zoning classification. It is in the St. Bethlehem planning area. And the current zoning of the property in '01 took place in '97 and 1995. Below that, you'll see there were no department comments of any concern in reference to this application. Permitting this would allow for an increased range of light industrial type uses. Future land use opinion map indicates this property is identified as commercial and industrial hybrid. The staff is recommending approval. The request is consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan. The adopted future land use opinion map identifies this parcel as commercial industrial hybrid, and the M1 light industrial district request aligns with the future land use designation. The proposed M1 light industrial district appears to align more with the development pattern on the street frontage and the existing structure on site than the existing O1 office zoning district. No adverse environmental issues have been identified as part of this zoning request. You have two aerial photographs, one wide angle and the other one zoom, showing the crosshatch property in question. You have the zoning map overview and the future land use opinion map. They're available to you. If you have any questions for myself or the staff, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them for you.
Commissioners, any questions for staff? All right, we'll open it up to public hearing then on Z25, 2025. Would anyone like to speak in favor?
Commissioners, Larry Riccone, 308 South 2nd Street, here on behalf of the applicant. Just wanted to point out to this is a light industrial complex. You know, everybody knows Alpine Drive, and it's where it connects with Husky. It's important that this lot actually fronts onto Alpine. We believe that the rezone will better align with everything in what I would call its neighborhood or its general development area. It does follow the comprehensive plan and the land use plan. And, you know, when you look at what happened, you look at the zoning overview, it's kind of clear to see, you know, when this was set up, they had the O, and the O was a buffer into the R1 across the street. And we believe it to be appropriate for these lots, or especially this lot, but any other ones that would front Alpine to be as its true use, which would be M1, and while maintaining everything on Old Trenton would stay O, and that would be your buffer, and provide an adequate and proper buffer to R1 across the street of Old Trenton. So we believe that M1 is the actual use of everything in this development. It is a light industrial development park, and that we're just coming into conformity with the actual uses. And the buffer will be maintained with the lots that front Old Trenton Road. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of Z25, 2025? All right, seeing no one, would anyone like to speak against Z25, 2025? All right, we're going to close public hearing. Commissioners?
Make a motion for approval to adopt a future land use opinion map that identifies the parcel as commercial and industrial hybrid, and the M1 light industrial request aligns with the future land use designation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a properly made second. That was a mouthful. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Z25, 2025 passes.
Commissioners, page 8 of your staff report is the next application. It is Z26, 2025, application of Christian Innovative Enterprises, LLC. The request is to go from AG Agricultural District to R2A Single Family Residential District. And this is for a parcel that fronts on the northern frontage of Kennedy Road at the terminus of Stone Bluff Way and the Kennedy Road intersection. The reason for the request, is stated by the applicant on their application, is the landowner wishes to apply for rezoning from Ag to R2A to allow for the single-family residential lots, a minimum of 5,000 square feet lot minimum and lot width minimum of 40 feet, while also preserving the family barn on site. This request encompasses just over 11 acres at 11.16. It is in the city and the North Clarksville planning area. Currently an area of open fields with some areas of trees. Department comments, the street department had indicated that traffic assessment would be required and some possible road improvements may be required. However, a previous study adequately addressed the overall impact of the entire development. Current proposal is a reduction of the assumptions from that previous study, and that the subdivision and site plan improvements may be required to Kennedy Road. And this will be evaluated based on that site plan, on that specific plan. See the other comments that were received. Development estimates by the applicant is between 44 to 49 units. Historic number would be 51. Future land use opinion map identified this property as mixed use. The staff's recommendation is for approval. The request is consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan. The R2 single-family residential zoning classification is a gradual density increase from the adjacent R2 cluster subdivision, Eagles Bluff, to the south. As presented, this zoning request affords an appropriate transition to the adjoining parcels of land. The future land use opinion map identifies this parcel and adjacent parcels to the north, east, and west as mixed use. The fractured nature of the parcels in this immediate area limits mixed-use development potential. A master development plan combining adjoining parcels may unlock additional development potential. No adverse environmental issues have been identified as part of this zoning request. Your next 2 pages are the aerial overviews of the property, showing it crosshatched. Then you have your future land use opinion map, and then your current zoning map. If you have any questions for myself or the staff, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them for you.
Seeing no questions, we'll open up the public hearing on Z26, 2025. Would anyone like to speak in favor?
Good afternoon. My name is Will Christian. This is my daughter, Anara Christian. We are actually the property owners, so I thought it would be important that she was here as well. We don't have any issues. Do you have any questions for us this afternoon? Wonderful. Well, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of Z26, 2025? Seeing no one, would anyone like to speak against Z26, 2025? We're going to exit public hearing. Commissioners?
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman, based on the overall goals of objection of the adopted Clarksville-Montgomery County City Comprehension Plan.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Z26, 2025 passes.
Commissioners, your next application starts on page 15 of the city zoning report. It is Z27, 2025. It's the application of Ransom S. Ritter Jr. It's for a request to go from R1 Single Family Residential District to R5 Residential District. It's a parcel of land fronting on the northwest intersection of Needmore Road and Thrush Drive. The reason for the request is a multifamily development. This request encompasses 2.66 plus or minus acres. It's currently a large single-family residential lot with a single-family home and associated accessory structures. It is in the St. Bethlehem planning area, and there is previous zoning history from 2022 to request to go from R1 to R5 that was disapproved. You'll see department comments in reference to this application. The street department has stated that the access from Thrush Drive only would be permitted. There are known drainage issues in the area as well. You'll see the rest of the comments and school capacities. The impact would be increased residential density. Historical lot yield for this property would be, or units would be 32. Future land use map designation is suburban neighborhood. The staff is recommending disapproval of this request. The request is not consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan. The future land use opinion map identifies this parcel as suburban neighborhood. The R5 residential district request does not align with the suburban neighborhood designation at this location. The proposed R5 residential district is viewed as an intrusion into the established single-family residential neighborhood, as it is a substantial increase in residential density and not in character with the surrounding low-density single-family residential development pattern for the adjacent parcels. The City of Clarksville Street Department has indicated there are known drainage issues that exist in the area. Any increased development potential of this parcel to include single-family or multifamily will require the developer to coordinate with the Clarksville Street Department to address drainage concerns. Next two slides are the aerial photographs of the request, the future land use opinion map, and then the area zoning map. And then you have a few emails listed there with individuals in opposition. If you have any questions for myself or the staff, I'll be more than happy to.
I do, Mr. Spain Howard. You said in 22 when this came before us, was it disapproved at that time too?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
For the same zoning request?
And it was for the R5 then?
Yes, for the same zoning request, it is a little bit different than before. If you'll take your eyes to the screen. This little triangle right there is still part, that triangle is still part of the parcel. It was included originally and has not been included as part of this request. So there, that is one subtle difference.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff? All right, we're going to open up public hearing on Z27, 2025. Would anyone like to speak in favor?
I'm Houston Smith, 2971 International Boulevard. Just been assisting with the rezone process through here. We're aware of some comments from the street department about drainage and access onto the secondary road. If there's any questions, I can try to answer them, I guess.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of Z27, 2025? Would anyone like to speak against Z27, 2025?
Yes, sir. My name is Kevin Haley. I come and spoke before for disapproval of it. I'm asking y'all, RFP, to please vote at the case number 2025 from R1 to R5 down. I live at 2715 Lark Drive, which connects to the property at the lower end. That's the little section that's then at the next road on the little thing, and which I know they said that they're gonna build up on the upper end. That lower end, if they don't, there's no access to that end. I mean, if they don't leave an opening going from that property to that's right next to my house. They'd have to use my driveway to access the rest of that property. So, anyway, I've lived on that property for 53 years, 2715 Lark Drive. It was brought up in May 24th, 2022, to have 5 townhomes built on it. That was just one. I think it was one extra one going down that hill is what it amounts to. They was going to build 4 on the thrust drive and then 1 going down the hill. And then it was also brought up to have because of the drainage thing, to have a retention basin put on that property, because of adding the asphalt and the concrete, it would throw more water down on us, on that, because it's a hill coming down. The retention basin, when it was brought up by the engineers, all they claimed was it may hold the water. They couldn't guarantee that all that water coming off that hill, the retention basin was going to hold the water. Okay, and I'm asking y'all please to vote this property down. It's voted down in 2022, and I'm asking for disapproval. The only thing that's changed is 3 years.
Thank you, sir. All right, would anyone else like to speak against Z27, 2025?
Hi, I'm Teresa Thomas. I live right next door at 2710 Thrush Drive. And when they say that there's no drainage, I know that in my backyard, when it rains, it already floods. So I can imagine a bunch of concrete over there. I don't have a lot of details or fancy stuff to tell y'all. All I'm telling you is that I'm a retired bus driver, school bus driver for 28 years, and I bought that house by myself. And I just don't want anybody staring over into my backyard at me. I don't know, all I got was one piece of paper, so I don't know exactly what they're planning on. That's all I got and stuff. So I know that the last time in 2020, they were talking about 3 stories. For that, we are a single family division, and that's what it should stay, if at all possible. I asked you, please, just don't change anything. Buy the piece of property and make a park out of it. Would that not be good? Something like that, just not a big subdivision. We have problems already on Needmore where the traffic is backed up a mile and stuff, just trying to get out of that light at Trenton Road and Needmore. I'm just asking you, please, if you could not do this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, we have room for one more against Z27, 2025.
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Fowler. First of all, I appreciate the opportunity to address the commission about this. My family's lived across that location since that subdivision was developed. So we've been at Valley View subdivision that entire time. And I guess for most people, when you talk about property, you hear location, location, location. And if you live in that neighborhood now, it's congestion, congestion, congestion. And we just agree with the recommendation that it should not be changed. The traffic does currently back up to that location now from the Trenton intersection, if anybody's familiar with it. And frequently, you'll have cars all the way back to the location that they're wanting to change, all the way from Trenton. So with that said, I would just request also that they vote down the change to it, and that I appreciate that the recommendation at this point is to not change it from R1.
Thank you, sir.
I can answer any questions about the neighborhood if anybody has any.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, would you like to rebut? All right, moving on. We're going to get out of public hearing here.
I make a motion for disapproval based on the request not being consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan, and the proposed R5 residential district is viewed as an intrusion into the established single-family residential neighborhood.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a properly made second for disapproval. All those in favor of disapproval?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Z27, 2025 fails.
Commissioners, your next page, or your next report starts on page 24 of the staff report. It is Z28, 2025. It's the application of Running M Properties LLC. The request is to go from C2 General Commercial District to R2A Single Family Residential District for a portion of this property. It's south of West Concord Drive, east of Fort Campbell Boulevard, and accessed approximately 260 feet south of Fort Campbell Boulevard and the Concord Drive intersection. There is frontage there along Fort Campbell Boulevard. We can discuss additional access momentarily as part of the presentation. The reason for this request stated by the applicant is to downzone from the commercial multifamily classification to develop a single-family subdivision. This request is right at 10 acres, plus or minus. Would not be an extension of the zoning classification. It's currently a wooded tract with varying topography. It is in the Lafayette Peters Mill planning area, and this application achieved rezoning to C2 in 2021. And you see that under the previous zoning history. Gas and water is stated under the department comments that will require off-site water main extension. The city street department has stated existing drainage problems are in the vicinity. Northwest corner of the property is located in a FEMA flood zone and potential blue line stream present on site. That is repeated there under the drainage comments. You see the school system capacities there. There was also department comments in reference to access, and I'll touch on that in just a moment. The impact of the proposed use or surrounding development is the removal of the commercial use and multifamily residential opportunities. Under road access, applicant has stated that they have access to 12 Concord Drive, and as the other frontages that were also mentioned, and I can show you that on a map here momentarily. Historical estimates for this type of request would be 46 units. It is in the Lafayette-Peters Mill planning area, and the future land use opinion map identifies this property as a suburban neighborhood. Staff is recommending approval. This request is consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan. The R2A single-family residential zoning request is more in alignment with the suburban neighborhood future land use designation for the tract than the existing C2 general commercial district. The proposed R2A zoning request removes the current commercial use allowances and multifamily residential potential permitted in the C2 general commercial district from a tract of land that has drainage and topography encumbrances. Clarksville Street Department has indicated there are known drainage issues that exist in the area. Any development of this parcel will require the developer to coordinate with the Clarksville Street Department to address drainage concerns. Next 2 pages are the aerial overviews of the request. I'll stop on this larger zoom. I believe 12 Concord is directly north, one of the larger parcels on this aerial from the request. Then you have your future land use opinion map, and then you have your current zoning map. The applicant has provided a copy of what the future layout is proposed to look like for the R2A subdivision. And then you have a public comment that's been received. If you have any questions for me or the staff, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them for you.
I have a question real quick.
Sure.
What is the difference in the amount of houses, units between an C2 and a R2A?
I knew that question was coming. That's why I opened my phone up. Was it 10 acres? Historical estimates are right around 12, so 120 units for apartments under C2, with the additional potential for mixed use and commercial. I would say that number's probably a little high considering the existing topography on the property, but that's what the historical yield would be.
So you're saying right now they can build 120 apartments?
They could build up to 160, but historically the number's been around 12. So.
And so then if they did the R2A, how many units would there be? And it's more of a neighborhood, correct?
Yes, on page, what page is that? 31 of the staff report.
Yes.
They've provided a potential layout that has 39 units.
39.
Historical estimates based on that. Again, there's a lot of topography on this property. I think we said 44 was more of a historical. That's 46. So 39, 46,
Okay.
in that range. Yeah.
Thank you.
Substantially different than C2.
Yes.
I guess
Okay.
that's fair to say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff? All right, we're going to open up public hearing on Z28, 2025. Would anyone like to speak in favor?
Houston Smith, 2971 International Boulevard. We are downzoning from commercial multifamily down to single family. So 100% we are taking away the ability to do multifamily. We are under contract to purchase a piece of property that will take an access out to Concord Drive. We provided a layout and we've actually submitted. I mean, it's been turned in. That's what we intend to do. We want to downzone it. We want to go single family. We want to run the road to Concord Drive. We want to build that. So we're aware that there's a blue line stream. The plat that you've seen, we've got our lots pretty good ways up to the north side of it to get away from that. We know there's a FEMA area in the northwest corner. We're going to be able to work with the street department to try to provide any kind of drainage improvements that could, obviously from what we're doing, we're going to have to maintain the current drainage. If there's an opportunity to help the downstream system, we will do that too. Gas and Water said we've got some off-site water to bring water in. We're aware of that. We just want to emphasize we are taking it from multifamily down to single family, and If there's any questions, I would be happy to answer them. Really, none? All right.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of Z28, 2025? All right, would anyone like to speak against Z28, 2025? Exit public hearing, commissioners.
I make a motion for approval based on the R2A single-family residential zoning request is more in alignment with the suburban neighborhood future land use designation for the tract of land than the existing C2 general commercial district.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Z28, 2025 passes.
All right, Commissioners, the last city case today is Z07, 2024. This was presented last month and deferred by the Planning Commission for a little more information, and we will hold a public hearing on this in a moment. Z07 was initiated by the City Council back in December to look at expanding the overlay districts similar to Madison Street and MLK Parkway up Fort Campbell Boulevard and Tiny Town Road. To date, we have had 2 public sessions on this, involved property owners in the area, and brought it back to you last month. It was deferred to look at flags a little more, and we have made that adjustment, and I'll call that out in a minute. Staff's recommendation is these standards would best be implemented as part of a overall zoning rewrite citywide, but they can still be implemented now by City Council. Comprehensive policy statements for economic development in the comprehensive plan says increase walkability, beautification, and character in key commercial centers and corridors, and to encourage high-quality mixed-use retail and development. And these are key initiatives in the aesthetics of this retail corridor. The comprehensive plan identifies gateway improvements for both North Clarksville and the Lafayette-Peters Mill planning areas. The Common Design Review Board reviewed this last month and approved the ordinance to the Planning Commission. And participants in the zoning code process have consistently expressed a desire for streamlined development approvals that reduce complexity, delays, and costs. This ordinance runs counter to those priorities, but you do have some benefits with that. Below there is the actual ordinance language that will be forwarded to City Council. Going through there, you got the maps of the area, and then it's broken up into sub-districts. Each sub-district has a slightly different look and feel. We base this on going out there and looking at the different lot arrangements and building ages. It does allow some reduction of front and side setbacks depending on what area you are, and some areas require more glass or more height in the buildings than others. And I'll go down to the section last month, which was deferred under flags. It's on page 59. In speaking with the code department this past month, this section of the ordinance discusses flags over 20 feet in height. And they said that if it's truly a flag and not a streamer that's maybe a triangle that has a flag on it, or a banner that has something that looks like a flag on it, truly an American flag, a rectangular flag of our country, or other city, county, or state and federal flags, that they would not limit that below the 20 foot, and that this section of the ordinance is for those flag poles 20 to 50 feet in height. We did look at other cities and counties in the area, and we said that you can have up to 3 flags on each property instead of the 1. I think your copy may still see 1 here. We did pass out the updated language at the informal last week. So 3 flags. The only difference is we went from 1 to 3 flags for the property. And that's the only change we made. Everything else stayed the same from last month. And I'll be happy to answer any other questions, and this does require a public hearing.
Commissioners, any questions? All right, we're going to open up public hearing then on Z07, 2024. Would anyone like to speak in favor?
Good afternoon. I'm Deanna McLaughlin. I'm the City Council member for Ward 12, which part of the Fort Campbell overlay encompasses. Some of you might remember from being on the City Council before, we did attempt a very similar overlay that would have included Providence Boulevard, Fort Campbell Boulevard, and Tiny Town Road back in 2016. It didn't get enough steam to get beyond the City Council. And this gives us an opportunity with the recent passing of the Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard overlay to continue that into the northwest part of Clarksville. The importance of this to a lot of the people who live in this area is that with the opening of the Wings of Liberty Museum actually being a reality next year, this is the gateway from that museum to our downtown. And there should be an opportunity through improved aesthetics for businesses to locate in our part of Clarksville that may not have in the past. I appreciate all the work that the Planning Commission staff went to put this together. They did a lot of research. They held 2 public meetings so that people could come and get questions answered. And thanks for the clarification on the flags. I wasn't able to attend last month, but there was some confusion. It was my request to add the language about the flags in the overlays because oftentimes we see our country's flag not taking care of property when it's hung in commercial areas, worn, tattered, et cetera. And I just wanted to make sure that we put in the rules that if you're going to fly American flag, it needs to be honored and cared for properly. And I just ask for your approval on this. If anybody has any questions, I can answer them for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak in favor of Z07 2024? Seeing no one, would anyone like to speak against Z07 2024? All right, we're going to exit public hearing. Commissioners?
I make a motion for approval based on the comprehensive plan policy statements even say that we should increase walkability, beautification, and character in key commercial centers and corridors, and I would consider these two to be key corridors of our community.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a properly made second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those against?
Nay.
Nay.
2 nays. I've got it as 4-2. All right, Z07 2024 passes.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. I'll be handling the county zoning cases today. And if you'll open up the county zoning tab on the tablets, we'll get right into that. We do have 4 cases. The first one today is CZ10 2025, application of Julia Raba. This is 1/4 of an acre, 0.25. It's currently zoned C1 Neighborhood Commercial District and requesting to go back to AG Agricultural District. It's a portion of a tract that fronts the southern frontage of Palmyra Road, approximately 1,570 feet east of Carbondale Road and Palmyra Road intersection. It's a former site of a post office. The structure has been long demolished. The applicant's statement is, I purchased the property almost 2 years ago. This parcel is no longer has any building on it, and I do not plan to put one there. The parcel will be attached to the remainder of my green belt of 37.68 acres. You can see on page number 4, the overall view of this property. On page 5, the zoomed in area. The comprehensive planning area on page 6, the zoning map on page 7. Staff does recommend approval. The request is consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. The request to change the existing C1 neighborhood district back to Ag district removes a no longer viable commercial district from the area and returns it to the original zoning. No adverse environmental issues were identified as part of this request. No other department or comments or concerns either. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Seeing no questions, we'll open up public hearing on CZ10 2025. Would anyone like to speak in favor?
Hi, my name is Julia Raba. I'm the owner, and I just wanted to say that, yeah, we don't want to put it back to commercial. We don't leave it commercial. We want to keep that 37 acres as ag as long as possible. I don't plan on putting anything on there but my house and a shop to build on, as far as my son is concerned, a garage. But nothing commercial. It's all residential. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of CZ 10-2025? Would anyone like to speak against CZ 10-2025? We're going to exit public hearing. Commissioners?
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman, consistent of overall goals and objection to the adopted Clarksville Montgomery County City Comprehension Plan.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes for CZ 10-2025.
Okay, your next case up is CZ 11-2025, application of Jerry Wayne Trotter. This is 2.38 acres, currently zoned AG agricultural and wishing to go to E1 Single Family Estate District. This parcel fronts the western frontage of Louise Creek Road, approximately 400 feet south of the Phillip Road intersection. It is in the rural area of the growth plan and in the Cumberland South River planning area. The applicant's statement is to request to be rezoned to E1 to provide the highest and best use of the property. We did not receive any other department comments or concerns. On page 11, you can see the property overview south of Highway 13. On page 12 is a closer view. On page 13 is the comprehensive planning area, and on 14 is the current zoning map. The historical yield for this would be only 2 lots, so they're basically going from AG right now. They could only do the 1 lot. They don't have enough land for 2, and under E1 they could have 2, but they don't have enough for 3. So really, you're expanding it from 1 to 2 lots. The request is consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. The requested E1 estate district aligns with the Rural Reserve Future Land Use Designation, as the request is near an established area of residential development. The E1 zoning request is in character with the rural residential development pattern for the immediate area, and no other adverse environmental issues were identified for this property as part of the zoning request. We make that in a recommendation for approval.
All right, we're going to go into public hearing on CZ 11-2025. Would anyone like to speak in favor? Would anyone like to speak against CZ 11-2025? Close public hearing. Commissioners?
Make a motion for approval. The E1 zoning request is in character with the rural residential development pattern in the immediate area.
Second.
We have a motion and properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? CZ 11-2025 passes.
Okay, Commissioners, picking up the next case, CZ 12-2025 on page 15 of the staff report. This is the application of James Joseph Smigel. This is 0.55 acres, currently zoned RM2, which is a single-family mobile home residential district, requesting to go to C5 highway and arterial commercial district. It's a portion of 2 parcels that front the south frontage of Woodlawn Road, approximately 2,800 feet east of Lake Road and Woodlawn Road intersection. This is in the planned growth area in the county and the Woodlawn-Dotsonville planning area. The applicant's statement is that this application is to request all of the RM2 zoned acreage on parcels 55.00 and 55.02 to be rezoned to C5. This would allow for continuous zoning across the entire parcels and an extension of the adjacent property zoning as well. Previously, this was zoned for RM2 in 1996. There were no other department comments or concerns with this. On page 18, you can see the overall view of Woodlawn Road where this application is. On page 19, you can see where it splits the 2 properties right up in the front there. You can see where there was a driveway to a pad that is no longer used. On page 20 is the comprehensive planning area map, and on 21 is the current zoning map. And you can see this area does have a considerable amount of C5. In fact, last month, I believe we had an application on one of these properties, and it specifically didn't develop this portion until it was developed. So I think we'll see a revised plan in the future back to you if this gets rezoned. Staff does recommend approval. It's consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. The proposed C5 highway and arterial district removes 0.55 acres from RM2 from a portion of a parcel surrounded by C5 on 3 sides. This request will permit the completion of a storage facility build-out on site plan recently submitted. The RM2 single-family mobile home residential district does not currently permit the completion of that site plan. No adverse environmental issues were identified as part of this zoning request. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, seeing no questions, we will open up public hearing on CZ 12, 2025. Would anyone like to speak in favor?
Hello, I'm Brad Weekly with Weekly Brothers Engineering, 108 Centerpoint Drive. Just as it was stated, this is an extension of the C5. It's the only little piece of everything surrounding it. The project that was discussed was a site plan that was brought forward last month that was approved, and this portion was left out because obviously it didn't meet the zoning. So I hope to have your support. Is there any question? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of CZ 12, 2025? Would anyone like to speak against CZ 12, 2025? We'll exit public hearing. Commissioners?
Move for approval of the proposed C5 highway and arterial commercial district request removes the 0.55 acre area of RM2 from a portion of a parcel surrounded by C5 on 3 sides.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I need to abstain.
And 1 abstain. Okay. CZ 12, 2025 passes.
Thank you, Commissioners. We have one more case before you, starting on page 22. Application CZ 13, 2025. The application of Jane Mosley and Linda Spainhoward. Patricia Taylor is the agent. This is 2 parcels totaling 10.39 acres, currently zoned AG agricultural and requesting to go to E1 single family estate district. It's 2 parcels fronting the west side of Lake Road, approximately 485 feet south of Lake Road and Jim Taylor Road intersection. It also has a little bit of frontage on Jim Taylor Road as well. It's currently an existing single family home site with outbuildings, rolling hills, a tree line, and a pond. This is in the rural area of the growth plan and the Woodlawn Dotsonville planning area. The applicant's statement is the family seeks to rezone the property from AG to E1 single family estate district to preserve long-term flexibility with any future divisions of land among family heirs, while ensuring that the requested parcels and surrounding family-owned tracts remain under family ownership. The proposal complies with the community's growth plan and is consistent with the principles of the comprehensive plan as it aligns with the character and the development pattern of the surrounding area. Department comments, the highway department said a traffic assessment should be done at preliminary plat if subdivided or developed to confirm line of sight on the road out there, and the school system with their capacities of their schools listed. Historical estimates would be 5 total lots in this configuration. I will note when it gets back to the overall map on the screen there. Hard to see. There's a little parcel that's inside the other parcel that fronts Lake Road. That is currently a non-compliant AG lot. So in addition to allowing the remainder of the property to be divided amongst the heirs, it also brings that current parcel into compliance. The staff does recommend approval. It's consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. This request is in character with the surrounding development pattern in the immediate area. The rural reserve future land use indicates that low-density, large lot homesteads are appropriate. The rezoning request is less than 1 mile to the elementary school, firehouse, and EMS station, and no adverse environmental issues were identified for this property as part of the request. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, we'll open up public hearing on CZ 13, 2025. Would anyone like to speak in favor?
Hello, my name is Patricia Taylor. I live at 3080 Lake Road. The property that we're discussing today It was purchased by my father, 70-plus years ago. And the family has lived on there ever since. He built 2 houses. He built the house for one of the applicants that here today. He divided the land between the brothers and sisters so that it could stay in the family. There are currently 4 members of the immediate family that live next door to this property. The primary reason for this is not to sell the land at this time, but to make sure that the heirs of the applicants can build homes on this and use it for their personal use. They also, as you mentioned, the house is an existing house, and we would like to bring it into compliance as well. The property is no longer used for agricultural, and we're working to make it a family farm, or family land. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of CZ 13-2025? Would anyone like to speak against CZ 13-2025? Closing public hearing. Commissioners?
Motion to approve. This request is in character with the surrounding development pattern in the immediate area. The rural reserve future land use indicates that low-density large lot homesteads are appropriate.
Second.
All right, we have a motion for approval and a properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, CZ 13-2025 passes.
All right, thank you, commissioners. That concludes our city and county zoning for today, and I encourage you to open up the subdivision tab on your tablet. Okay. Before we get into the subdivisions, Mr. Chairman, we do have a variance case, V6 2025, that we need to hear first, and then we'll do the consent agenda after that. Mr. Parker.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tyndall. Good afternoon, commissioners. Our variance case this month is case number V6 2025. The applicant is Hamilton Development Company, Witt Hamilton. The request is for a subdivision variance request. The property is located at 4051 and 4175 Guthrie Highway. The property is zoned M2, General Industrial District. Growth plan is in the rural area, and the corresponding subdivision case is case number S34 2025. The actual variance request is to table 4.1 in section 4.32. No block or block face shall be greater than 1,500 feet in length as measured from the center line, from the intersecting center lines of one intersection to the other. Careful consideration shall be given to consider circulation control, safety, and street traffic, schools, buses, and emergency vehicles. The request is to allow the 2 proposed roadways extending in a northwesterly to southeasterly direction to each be approximately 2,169 feet in length, exceeding the maximum allowed of 1,500 feet. The next section is the justification provided by the applicant. They've stated that based on the proposed layout of and the use of this project being industrial, we are requesting to increase the block length as the building use requires larger, longer buildings. If you'll go to page 5 in your subdivision tab, you'll see the aerial overview of the site. The following page is the variance exhibit with the 2 parallel roads shown. And the next page is a letter of support from the Clarksville-Montgomery County Industrial Board. If there's any questions for the staff, I'll be happy to try and answer those. The next few sections are the staff conclusion and staff review of the variance application, followed by department comments, which are listed. And if there's any questions, again, for the staff, I'll be happy to try and answer those. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions for staff? All right, we'll move to public hearing on V6 2025. Would anyone like to speak in favor?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rob Arts. I'm with Kim and Horn, one of the engineers on the property, 10 Leah Avenue, Nashville, Tennessee. And the reason for this variance request is kind of as stated. These industrial type buildings are just very large in scale. And so the 1,500 foot requirement is generally more towards single family subdivisions and more tightly dense areas. And so as you can see, we're only affecting maybe 3 or 4 properties per side with this request. In addition, we're also providing a much wider pavement section than is a standard roadway. We're going to have a 40-foot wide pavement section. So 3 wide lanes such that if any traffic does get blocked up, there's still going to be room for emergency services to get around. We've got kind of a loop configuration to have multiple access points off of Guthrie Highway. We're also working with the IDB to provide, if you can refer to the plan, towards the southwestern corner connecting through to the adjacent Amazon facility for use on that road. Yep, and so we propose to continue that public road straight across. We feel that a more direct path is more conducive for a safer travel pattern. In addition, that allows us to avoid some wetlands that are both on east and west sides of the property by keeping that public road in that location. But happy to answer any other questions.
Well, the road that connects in, will it also be a 40-foot wide road?
Yes. Yep, all our public roads are proposed to be 40 feet wide, curb to curb.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of V6 2025? Would anyone like to speak against V6 2025? All right, we're going to exit public hearing. Commissioners?
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, V6 2025 passes.
All right, Mr. Chairman. We're going to be in the subdivision portion of the agenda today. We did already read the deferrals that were marked on the agenda, and I'll read this statement, and then the Planning Commission does have a case to pull today. All items in this portion of the agenda are to be considered routine and non-controversial by the staff of the Regional Planning Commission and may be approved by one motion. However, a member of the audience, commission, or staff may request that an item be removed for separate consideration. Planning Commission staff will be removing S42, Double J Partners, case number 17, S42 2025. We will pull that from the agenda for a separate public hearing. Commissioners, anyone else want to pull any of these for separate consideration? Anyone from the public here to pull any other cases? Yes, sir.
The Muddy Branch development.
Muddy Branch.
Unless we're able to speak to that here, then I'd like to have it as a separate.
It will have to do it as a separate case there. And that is S43 2025 will also be pulled for separate consideration. Anyone else from the public? In the back there. We're going to dispose of the subdivisions first, and then we'll do the site reviews right after that. We'll do the same process. Yes, sir.
Case number S43, 2025.
Yes, we're going to pull that one. So
It's being pulled.
we'll pull it
Separate
for
consideration.
separate consideration. We'll have an opportunity for 3 people to speak on each side of those cases. So, commissioners, with the passing of the variance here, Mr. Parker, would you read the cases into the consent agenda, minus the 2 cases that have been pulled?
Yes, sir. Case number S34 2025, the applicant's Hamilton Development Company, Witt Hamilton. The request is for preliminary plat approval of North Park Logistics. The recommendation is for preliminary plat approval, subject to the conditions listed. In case number S37 2025, the applicant is GP Contractors LLC. Request is for preliminary plat approval of the subdivision of GP Contractors LLC property, Riggins Drive, lots 1 through 3. The recommendation is for preliminary plat approval, subject to the conditions listed. Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, Commissioners, consent agenda minus S42 and S43.
Move for approval of the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a properly made second on the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, consent agenda passes.
All right, the first case on the floor today is case S42 2025, application of Double J Partners for preliminary plat approval of Tandy Hills. Mr. Parker, would you please read the staff recommendation into the record, and then we'll hold a public hearing.
Okay. Again, case number S42, Tandy Hills, preliminary plat. The property is located south of and adjacent to Trough Springs Road, northwest of Sango Elementary School, approximately 330 feet southwest of the intersection of Trough Springs Road and Mountain Way. It's approximately 36.86 acres, 66 lots are proposed. The zoning is R1 and it is in the UGB portion of the growth plan. If you go to page 22, you'll see the aerial overview of the site. I'll point out to the east is Sango Elementary School. To the south is Grandview and East Grandview subdivision with the road connection to the west. And then to the north is Trough Springs Road. The following page is the proposed preliminary plat. I will point out that the street connection, the only street connection shown is to the south, which is to Grandview and Grandview East subdivision. There is some case history to this. There's a previous application of the site which has expired that showed a street connection to the parcel to the west, and it showed a connection to Trough Springs Road to the north. That parcel is now no longer owned by the developer, and that application has expired. There was another later proposal that showed a connection through to the CMCSS property through the Sango Elementary School through their drive. That case was ultimately withdrawn. The current plat that's under consideration, the staff is requiring a direct connection to Trough Springs Road, which is not shown at this time. I'll also mention on the eastern side of the preliminary plat a note that showing a sidewalk is to be constructed to connect over to Sango Elementary. The final item that I'll mention as of now is the next several pages. Looks like pages 24 through 32 in your packet are emails that we've received. I know you received these ahead of time, but the commissioners may want a few minutes to look through those. And if there's any questions at this time, I'll be happy to try and answer those.
Commissioners, I'll give you a few moments to read over all those emails if you haven't already.
Was there a request for deferral on this?
No, sir. Well, the staff did request a deferral from the applicant, but that they wanted to proceed with this. And I can go through the recommendation momentarily, or if you'd like me to do it now, that's fine either way.
Let them finish looking at that and ask any other questions.
Did I understand you to say the applicant was deferring it?
No.
No.
No, sir.
I misunderstood.
Did you have more you wanted to say, or do you want to go in the public hearing?
We usually present the staff recommendation. So, yeah,
Alright.
Brad will present the staff recommendation. It's a different one.
Yeah.
Staff has a initial recommendation of disapproval. That's why the applicant did not want to defer it. And we do have some follow-up items as well. So, Mr. Parker, if you would read the recommendation into the record.
Sure. The staff recommendation is for disapproval. The developer and engineer were advised of the option to defer and request a variance to the subdivision regulations regarding additional connectivity. They have opted to proceed as proposed without the connection required to Trough Spring Road. The lot yield of 160 lots, when factoring in the proposed 65 lots in Tandy Hills and the existing 95 of Grandview subdivision, are in compliance with the single outlet minimum requirements that are outlined in section 4.12 subsection 10B. However, under section 4.21, street and dedicated permanent access easement alignment of the Montgomery County subdivision regulations, and specifically subsections 3 and 4 of the proposed subdivision requires a road connection to Trough Springs Road in addition to the connection through Grandview subdivision as shown. Those two sections, 4.12, 3, and 4, state the arrangement of streets, roads, or permanent easements shall be such as will not cause hardship to owners of adjoining property in providing convenient access. And number 4, collector streets, roads, or permanent easements may be required where necessary to facilitate traffic flow to the subdivision. Due to the proximity of Sango Elementary and the resulting parent responsibility zone, accessing all new lots through a single point outlet is not sufficient or in the best interest current or future residents of these respective subdivisions, and the connection to the school entry or Trough Springs Road should be made. The Clarksville-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan's general recommendations for Sango planning area promote street connections as neighborhoods and nodes development, while also promoting multi-use paths between neighborhoods and key destinations such as schools. Finally, multiple points of access point decrease emergency service response time, improves traffic distribution, and reduces traffic congestion.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Thank you.
Commissioners, anything? All right, I'm going to open up a public hearing on S42 2025. Would anyone like to speak in favor?
Good afternoon. Britt Little, Weekly Brothers Engineering, 108 Center Point Drive. As Mr. Parker stated in his staff report, we are proposing 66 lots in this first phase of Tandy Hills subdivision. The subdivision regulations allow this number to access Sango Road through South Point Drive, which is in Grandview subdivision. Mr. Parker stated in his staff report that there are deficiencies to the application. He specifically cites 4.1.2 sections 3 and 4, and he states that the arrangements of streets cannot cause hardship to the adjoining property owners in providing convenient access, and that a road may be required where necessary to facilitate traffic flow in the subdivision. We don't believe this application is a deficiency in these matters. We, receiving these comments from the planning staff, prepared a traffic study. And that traffic study specifically analyzes the ability of South Point Drive to handle this traffic. We assessed the choke point of South Point Drive, it being the intersection of South Point Drive and Sango Road. As it stands today, that intersection would operate at a level of service B. After this development, it will still operate at a level of service B. And so we feel like that we're not causing hardship, or that another road is necessary to facilitate traffic flow, as South Point will operate at a level of service B. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
I have one question. Why not use the little portion that connects to Trough Springs right there?
The developers want to develop this portion of the project, and I think he's here to speak as well. He might be able to answer that. But we're just wanting to build this phase. We're not saying that a connection will never be made. It's just we want to build this phase, and we believe it meets the subdivision regulations.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, would anyone else like to speak in favor of S42 2025?
Commissioner Vernon Weekly, 108 Center Point Drive. Yes, we're just looking at phase 1 right now. Phase 1 meets all of the requirements of the Planning Commission. Phase 2 will have additional access points, and right now we just don't know exactly how we're going to handle phase 2. So all we're asking for right now is phase 1, which meets all the requirements of the subdivision regs. Yes, in the future, phase 2 will be able to access to Trough Springs Road. We've had several inquiries. EMS has asked for a place over there. The school has asked for some playground room. The Christian school may need some more property. So we're just not totally sure how Section 2 is going to be handled. But Section 2 will address the staff's problems are with Section 2. Section 1 meets all the requirements. That's why we limited to 160 lots going out, and still has a level of service B. So everything in Section 1 meets the requirements. It's not uncommon to have a subdivision built in sections, and when it gets complete, there won't be any deficiencies. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
One question, Mr. Weekly, I do have is, and I know it's your property and, you know, you want to go forward with it, and I know that you've been patient with what's out there, but, I know staff had some questions too, and I know you said you did not want a deferral, but with the time frame that I know, I travel by that property every day, going back and forth into town, would 30 days kill you?
30 days won't kill me, but they're asking me to ask you for a variance that I don't have to have, a variance that don't exist with phase one. They're asking for something that I can't do. I don't need a variance, so how can I ask for a variance? Section 2 will finish up their questions. But Section 1 has no problems. A variance from what? Meets all the requirements I'm asking for y'all's vote.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I guess this goes to the staff. Your recommendation was for disapproval. Was that based on just site, the first site, or a combination of site and 1 and 2? Or did you make your decision just on the proposal Mr. Weekly's talking about?
I think I know what you're asking.
Did you make
What?
your disapproval on just where he doesn't need a variance? Or did you go ahead and assume that the second section was coming in?
Staff believes the way it's been proposed to you as what you see on the screen here, and per our requirements would suggest that it requires that road to be extended at this time. This doesn't show a future phase. This is just one phase, and this applicant did state that future phases would have to accommodate some form of additional access. We're just asking to have that now instead of in the future.
We have the road stub to the north lined up, ready to go. We have a favorable traffic. We have a road stub to the south to future property that will be developed someday, not mine, but somebody will. Everything's covered under this section. There's not a variance I can ask for.
Any other
Sorry
questions?
about the loss of your father too, by the way.
Appreciate that.
Ms. Streetman?
I have a question. I sat here and counted by one the number of lots there to get to the same number. So I do have to ask, what variance is it that you would be requesting to have?
Yeah, the amount of lots is not what's at question today. It's about the extension of road stubs to the surrounding road system, specifically Section 4.1.2 of the subdivision regulations, subsections 3 and 4, stating, quote, "The arrangement of streets, roads, or permanent easements shall be such as will not cause hardship to the owners of surrounding properties and providing convenient access, and collectors, roads, or permanent easements may be required where necessary to facilitate traffic flow in the subdivision." It's long been a history of the staff to require stub roads to continue to surrounding properties or surrounding roadways, and we feel we're treating this one similar to other ones.
So if this portion was surveyed off and no longer part of this and ended right there, would a variance still be needed?
If they surveyed off which portion?
The portion to the right,
That has the flag to Trough Springs Road. If it were a separate parcel, they would then here be showing a stub to that separate parcel.
Which,
It just happens to all be at once here. And we look at the whole property as one.
Okay, my question is that with the traffic flow being that of a B, graded a B, and even after the development, it would still be a B, is that correct?
That was stated by their engineer.
Right. So, I really don't understand what it would be hurting other than,
All right, any more questions for Mr. Weekly? All right, thank you, sir, appreciate it. All right, would anyone else like to speak in favor of S 42-2025? All right, seeing none. Would anyone like to speak against S 42-2025?
I'm Russell Harris. I lived at 401 Waterfall Drive for 22 years, and I'm opposed to extending Waterfall Drive into Tandy Hills as the only entrance. I hope you on the board here today are to save the sanctity of our neighborhood. This plat should not be passed in its current form for the following reasons. The developer has access to Charles Springs Road to create an entrance. Clearly, this will cost him extra money. However, several years ago, we met with the commission who stressed the need for connectivity. More than one entrance in and out of neighborhoods which would allow for better access for emergency vehicles such as fire trucks, ambulances, etc. With the current plan, Grandview will be the only entrance for both housing areas. That is unacceptable and diminishes the commission's stand on connectivity. This will cause an exorbitant amount of traffic through our neighborhood. There are 66 homes in the first section of Tandy Hills. At 2 cars per home, this would add 132 extra cars through our neighborhood on a regular basis, including school buses, garbage trucks, delivery trucks. This is not even the final total, with an additional 46 acres planned for future development. It'll be a nightmare for our residents. By extending Waterfall Drive, the developer is going to put a culvert under the road and send a huge amount of water into a sinkhole that is already handling the runoff from South Point Drive. There are 3 houses on Waterfall and 1 on South Point that are currently in a flood zone. I fear that adding that much more water would be catastrophic. We all know what happened at Farmington and 3 times at Woodstock subdivisions. We do not want to be added to that list of catastrophes. We also think that if they're gonna open up Waterfall Drive as an entrance, they should have to put in their entrance off of Charles Springs at the same time, not downstream, not years later. Grandview does not need that much traffic over years. I mean, that's 132 cars, probably at least twice a day. People are gonna go to work, they're gonna come home. That's a lot of traffic through a neighborhood. And I think it's ridiculous that they build a subdivision and not have their own entrance. You got any questions for me?
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak against S 42-2025? Seeing no one, would anyone like to rebut? Spoke in favor, Mr. Weekly, the other engineer.
Yeah, I'll be glad to answer a few questions. As far as the drainage goes, that'll be handled. Most of this drainage goes onto ourselves on our own property. It won't be going in their direction. This is similar to a case y'all had a year or 2 ago when a developer in Nashville was developing 200 or 300 lots, and they were sending all the traffic through an existing subdivision. And there was a traffic study done, and it flunked all the entrances. They went from a D to a F. And your staff recommended for y'all to approve that subdivision. They didn't believe that was a detriment to Rudolph Town. Your staff was for it. Y'all saw through it and voted against it. And later on it came back different. So we knew that history. So we did that traffic study to make sure we weren't in that situation. And that traffic study was a B existing today and will be a B when this is built. Yet your staff now is recommending you, so they have ignored all the traffic studies. They told you to vote for one that's a F. Now they're telling you to vote against one that's a B. We're going to use these traffic studies, or we're not. That's what they're for. The only difference between these two cases is one was a Nashville developer and one's a Clarksville developer.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to exit public hearing, go back into regular session.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for approval of S-42, 2025.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any? One abstain. Those against?
Aye.
So I got 4 for, 1 against, and 1 abstention.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to address some of the rebuttal comments there, because the subdivision he was speaking of was an out-of-town developer. It has nothing to do with it. That subdivision did show an entryway onto Memorial Drive. It was more about the phasing of that approach, of whether that road should be built first or later in the development. It had nothing to do with the traffic impact and the level of services. So I just want to go on the record correcting them that that one did show the connection. It was more about the timing of the connection and not the service of the road. So apples and oranges in our opinion. All right, we do have another case to go on to today. And I'll also mention that there are conditions attached to that approval. They were sent to the engineer ahead of time if this thing should be approved. So there are conditions. It's the standard conditions for drainage and approval from the utility departments. All right, the next case up, S-43, 2025. Mr. Parker, would you please read the case?
Thanks, sir. The subdivision is Muddy Branch Development, is a preliminary plat that's proposed. The property is located at the intersection of Johnson Road and Muddy Branch Road. It's 32.19 acres plus or minus. 18 lots are proposed. The zoning is agricultural district, and it is in the rural area portion of the growth plan. If you go to page 35, you'll see the aerial overview of the site. And the following page is the proposed preliminary plat. If there's any questions for the staff, I'll be happy to answer those. The recommendation is for approval subject to the 5 conditions. Those conditions are approval by the County Highway Department of road and drainage plans for drainage structures within the proposed rights-of-way before construction begins on site. Approval of grading permit by Montgomery County Building and Codes before final plat approval. Approval of all utility plans by the Office of the Chief Utility Engineer, Utility District. Approval of the Montgomery County Fire Service. And finally, approval of the Tennessee Department of Conservation TDEC for all septic areas. Department comments are listed below, and if there's any questions for the staff, I'll be happy to try and answer those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Any letters sent in on this project on this set?
You'll have a moment to speak, sir.
Would you want to cover the differences since Friday? What's changed on it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that.
Commissioner, since the informal, this plan changed slightly, and we just want to point out those changes.
So they have added a 6-inch. There's some upgrades to the water line that are going to be required. So along Johnson Road from the east to west, there's some improvements to the water line, and they have added fire hydrants to meet fire hydrant spacings. I will point out I failed to mention that there are several pages. Several email pages in your packet from pages 37 to 98 that are emails that have been provided, and just like the previous case, those were provided to you ahead of time, but you may want a few minutes to look over those. Thank you.
Give you about a few minutes to look at those emails. All right, we'll open up the public hearing on S-43, 2025. Would anyone like to speak in favor? Come on up, sir.
My name's Cole Mile. I reside at 151 Oak Plains Road. Pretty much I'm purchasing this property to give me a place to live, kind of selling some lots off, obviously, to offset some cost. Obviously, we know what land costs nowadays. So for a young person that doesn't inherit anything, it's pretty hard to buy land without doing something. So this is actually a lot larger parcel. It's 82 acres, I believe. So I'm just selling some off to, and you can see where there's about 300 and something foot of road frontage I'm keeping for myself. So I'm just selling some lots off, offset the cost. Grew up in this area, want to stay in this area, want to live here. So that's the plan. So here to answer any questions you might have. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of S-43, 2025?
Howdy, Brad Weekly, Weekly Brothers Engineering at 108 Centerpoint Drive. We believe that it's to our understanding that this lot layout meets both the zoning manual and the subdivision regulations. Any comments that were made by the department or by all the departments were met, and that's why they're in agreement to it. Unless you have any questions for me, I'll sit down and listen to any concerns.
How many total lots?
It's 18, and then what does that say on there? I apologize. I believe it's 18, and then the large lot that he will reside on is not a lot. It's the leftover farmland.
Any other questions for him? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak in favor of S-43, 2025? All right, we'll open it up for anyone that wants to speak against S-43, 2025.
Hi, my name is Todd Evans, and I'm the guy who sent you the 35-page document. Why did I do that? First of all, I apologize. I was born in the north, and I have an accent that sounds like I'm from Chicago. So I'm a Tennessean at heart, and don't hold that against me, please. This required a thoughtful consideration, and I'll tell you why. Out here, there is a number of large, extremely large plats of land, parcels of land that remain from families. And a lot of these going back to the 1800s. The Marks, and oh, by the way, I'm sorry, I didn't position who I am. I am the better half, or not the better half, the lesser half of Dorothy Havens. And Dorothy is the property owner that's immediately adjacent to the Marks property that we're talking about. So we're the north side of the property. So the thoughtful consideration is there's a lot of land out there that is large and on the cusp of going to development. I am not anti-development. I'm thoughtful development. There is a comprehensive plan, there is a growth plan that's supposed to be a guide to the development, no leapfrog, do it in tandem, do all those things. So the document that you probably didn't read from me annotates every single instance where this thing, where this development has applicable regulation. I didn't do it to be a pain in the rear end. I did it because this is a thoughtful thing that's about to happen here. And whether anyone realizes it, it's the gateway. The decision here will affect other large pieces of land that are out there. So my initial indication is the lots are too small, but that doesn't matter at the moment. If you stand, I'm going to paint a picture for you. I'm standing at the intersection of Johnson Road, and to my left is the property that you see up there on the plat, and to the right is Dorothy's property. At that intersection, I have to look 100 feet up to see the backs of these property. All of those pieces of, all those parcels are such from a topography standpoint that they're directing the runoff to the culvert that's at the southeast corner of the property, and that's the inlet side. The outlet side is Dorothy's property. That intersection has already received visits from the county for flooding repair. The culvert on the outlet side has had riprap repair, and gravel, because it's not Muddy Branch on the other side, it's actually Harville Road. Harville Road, as you're coming up to this intersection, has had gravel repair because the bank is got issue from the shoulder eroding. So I learned a long time ago, look at what people say and look at what they write for their intent. I've looked at the preliminary plat. There's no provision for a 6-inch water line or a 4-inch water line. Doesn't even show it to you. Doesn't show you the topography and how the water flow is existing. There's going to be pretty significant runoff from that. The slopes are anywhere from 15 to 24%, and there's no thought to how they're going to deal with it. There's no retention wall or anything like that.
Sir, you reached your 3 minutes. Wrap it up for us, please.
Water taps are out. They need 18 to deal with this, and they have no water taps available. There was a last minute study done to say, no, don't worry, there's more there. The bottom line is, it's not suitable for the application for what it is today.
Wrap it up now.
The application should be denied, and if they want to come back and do a 5-acre minimum that has more consideration to the infrastructure, that's fine.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Would anyone else like to speak against S43 2025?
Thank you very much, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak. I'm Robert Williams. I grew up on the farm that was once a part of what Dorothy Havens has. I'm a little further over to the north. And I respectfully object to this proposal as well. In Tennessee, and especially in Montgomery County, there's been a tremendous loss of large farms and farms in general. Tennessee leads the nation at number 3, and I suspect Montgomery County is not far behind. That's quite a remarkable statement. Tennessee is suffering from huge growth in Middle Tennessee, and these large farms, such as exist in this area, aren't going to exist anymore unless this commission stands up and does something about it. I'm very familiar with the concept of the 1.5 acre lot, low density, so-called, in agricultural rural areas. But here is a different situation. You've got the subdivision, which looks like an urban development, going out in a remote area of this county, one with open spaces, large farms, which is a total rarity today in Montgomery County. I'm not saying they don't exist elsewhere, but they are losing favor in this county at a rapid pace. This development has 18 lots on about 31 or 32 acres. I'm going to demonstrate to you how you can legally decline this subdivision approval. We talked about the 1.5 acre lot permissible under the current zoning regulations. But if you look at those zoning regulations, there's another provision. There's another provision right at the very beginning, which would allow you to follow state law, the so-called state growth plan law passed in 1998, which directs local governments to curb urban sprawl and to do a careful analysis of growth development. Now that's a mandate from the state. That is a state law. The zoning regulations has provision at the very beginning, 1.5.1, which says that if these zoning regulations conflict with any other statute that imposes a greater restriction, then that statute governs. That statute is the growth statute, and it commands the study and prevention of urban sprawl. Justice Potter Stewart, back in 1964, said that in considering the definition of obscenity, what is obscene, I know it when I see it. That was his definition. They hadn't quite come up with a definition at that time, but I know it when I see it. I know an obscene development in a remote rural area when I see it. And I ask that you do too, and use section 1.5.1 to follow the state law in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, I have room for one more against on S43 2025.
Good afternoon. Y'all have had a long day. Daryl Pater, 1895 Muddy Branch Road. I live across the street from the end of that thing. I'll be quick, because really it comes down to three things. One is, this is really sloppy. It starts with the location. You all listed as the southeast corner. It's actually the southwest corner. I don't understand how that gets mixed up. But if everything else is as sloppy as this, I'm very concerned. Second thing is, this is AG zoning. Now, to me, this is an end run trying to take advantage of two things. One, the recent discussions in the Montgomery County meeting about increasing zoning requirements from 1.5 acres to 5 acres. But more importantly, at the very beginning of section 3.3.3.1, in your own resolution, it says on main roads. There's no main road here. These are both wildly rural roads that aren't even near main roads with low traffic areas and a lot of farms. So I don't really understand how you can approve this plat when it's not on a main road. It's in an AG. They didn't go bother doing a zoning change, which I would think would be required to do 18 houses. And they're trying to end run what's potentially going to be a change to a 5-acre requirement. But who knows? Again, in my mind, it just seems fast and sloppy. And I'm a little bit offended that y'all got the wrong corner, but I went to one of my neighbors real fast and messed that up, so sorry about that. With that said, I also sent an email in about some concern about deeds. Because it's AG, you don't give us the protection of normal residential zoning. So we don't have protection against mobile homes. We don't have protection against used car lots or car debris lots. On the remaining acres that are there, there's at least 6 abandoned cars, 2 abandoned tractors, and 4 abandoned buildings. Across the street, grandfathered in, there's a lot with probably 25 abandoned cars on it. I'm interested in the beauty of our area. Again, I don't mind development. If he wants to do 5 acres and spread this out and, make this an agricultural type development, I appreciate his entrepreneurialism to try and finance his purchase. But what I need is protection, so I'm not living next to a dump. Right now I don't have that because you're letting them get away with an AG zoning on something that is not AG, not on a main road, and not really appropriate with what your own resolutions are. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have time for a rebuttal. Anyway.
Hello, Brad Weekly, 108 Centerpoint Drive. Some things to remember on this is a preliminary plat, not a final. So I know we see a lot of road front lots and they come through as final plats, means that y'all pass it, it gets signed, and then people can start building on it. Now this is preliminary because the number of lots and because there are some improvements. To have those fire hydrants, which are required, it's what the fire department also wanted, or the county, you need a 6-inch line, so there'll be an upgrade there. We talked to East Montgomery Water Utility District, and they are fine with the taps. They will have to look into upgrade of line. If that can't be done, then this is all based off of conditions. That's how preliminaries go. They get approved with these conditions that have to be met before you get your final approval. And so another thing is, when it comes to preserving farmland, that's what this is doing. We're pushing all of our small lots to the front in the wooded area, allowing him to have farmland in the back. There are protections to that. In the zoning manual, it tells you specifically what can go in agriculture land, as y'all know, and commercial car lots is not one of them. All the trash that's there has either already been picked up, the cars, or already in the process of being removed. He plans to take care of this property. It meets the current zoning regulations and the subdivision regulations, and I ask for your vote of approval on this. Do you have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to exit public hearing here. Commissioners?
Move for disapproval, Mr. Chairman, of S 43/2025.
All right, we have a motion for disapproval of S 43/2025.
We need a little more than just this approval.
Any
Mr.
reason?
Patterson, I'll need you to elaborate on that just a little bit.
Sir?
I'll need you to elaborate on your motion just with a reason.
Yeah, based on the information and the hopefully true facts and everything that has been discussed during this open time that each side got to speak. I feel like there were some good points there, and again, no matter what this body decides, it's still, in this particular case, is going to go to the county commission.
No, sir.
No.
This is
I'm sorry.
This
I'm
is
sorry.
final here.
This is subdivision, but based on what I heard, that's why that I'm doing this particular motion.
Thank you for that.
Appreciate the explanation. All right, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second for disapproval of S 43/2025. Any discussion? All those in favor of disapproval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. S 43/2025 fails.
All right, commissioners, over to the site plan portion of the agenda. If you'll open your site plans here. We have deferred a couple cases today. Similar to the subdivisions, all items in this portion of the agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the staff of the Regional Planning Commission and may be approved by one motion. However, a member of the Audience Commission or staff may request an item to be removed for separate consideration. I don't believe staff is removing any from the agenda. Commissioners, would you like to remove any of these cases for separate consideration? I already heard from the audience, SR 49, 1018 Swift Office. We'll pull that one for separate consideration. Anyone else from the public? All right, Mr. Parker, please read the consent. Is it just the one item then? Yeah. Read the consent item into the agenda. Okay.
Case number S39, the applicant is Hamilton Development Company. With Hamilton, it's North Park Logistics 1A. The proposed use is industrial. The recommendation is for approval subject to the conditions listed. Case number SR50, the applicant is Clarksville Properties LLC. The development is Kenny Pipe Extension. The proposed use is a warehouse. Recommendation is for approval subject to the conditions listed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion for approval and a properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, consent agenda passes. Moving on to SR 49/2025, correct?
Correct. Case number SR 49/2025. The site is 1018 Swift Office on Swift Road. It's approximately 2.10 acres. The property is zoned O1 Office District. That is within the city. If you go to page 22 of your packet, you'll see the aerial overview of the site. The following page is the proposed site plan, followed by the landscape plan. I will point out that there are, on the following few pages, there's a couple of emails that have been provided to the staff. Recommendation for the application is approval subject to the two conditions listed. Those conditions are approval of all utility plans by the city engineer's office and utility district official, and approval of all grading, drainage, and water quality plans by the city street department. Department comments are listed below that, and if there's any questions for the staff, I'll be happy to try and answer those. Thank you.
All right, seeing no questions, we'll open up public hearing on SRR 49, 2025. Would anyone like to speak in favor?
Good afternoon, Cal Burchett with McKay Burchett and Company, 1545 Madison Street. I heard the conditions that were read, and we meet the zoning ordinance and are good with those conditions. We'll work with Gas and Water and Street Department to receive those approvals, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or hear any comments.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of SR 49, 2025? Would anyone like to speak against SR 49, 2025?
Good afternoon. My name is Donna Brew Radcliffe, and I've lived at 1018 Ridgecrest Drive for 36 years. Excuse me. I'm here today to present my concerns about the proposed two-story office building to be built on the corner of Swift and Ridgecrest Drives. Swift is a narrow road without any sidewalks, there's no room for them, that our school system cannot even send a school bus to pick up children on any of Ridgecrest Drive, and Clarksville Transit cannot send their buses on this narrow neighborhood street. As a retired elementary-aged public school teacher of 36 years, I feel I must address the safety issues involved with this endeavor. My neighbor's first-grade son must walk up and down a very steep hill twice a day, no matter what kind of weather or how dark the morning or evening are in the winter, to catch the bus on Monroe Street because they cannot get on Ridgecrest Drive. On Swift Drive, several K through 3 age children walk alone up and down a very steep hill twice a day to catch their bus 2 blocks away from the corner on Swift and Monroe Street. I can attest these children are oblivious to cars on this road and run in and out between parked cars often. They also consider it their playground because they don't have any backyards. I can attest the danger of that because several years ago I was driving slowly on Swift Drive and a second-grade child darted out between 2 cars right in front of me. I was terrified because I almost hit her and had to sit for several minutes in the road to calm myself enough to drive home. Since there's absolutely no room to put in a sidewalk, children play and walkers tend to walk out in the roadway since there's almost no traffic through that residential area. Right in the midst of this play and walking area is where the only building driveway entrance is located. This would be so dangerous for the children and walkers out enjoying a stroll through our quiet neighborhood. I understand the builder plans to use 40% of this 2-acre lot for parking up to 44 cars, that's stunning, in this office building. Norman Smith Elementary School, which I taught at for 7 years, begins at 8:50. I called transportation yesterday, which means these children will be on the road and picked up between 8 and 8:15 in the morning, and they end at 3:45, which means they arrive home playing on those streets, running up and down, being children, between 4 and 4:30. These are the very hours the office people will be coming to work and crowding out on Swift Drive to get in and out of the neighborhood subdivision. Since there's only one street light, this will especially affect these children and the drivers in the shorter, darker mornings and evenings of winter. This entire situation will be dangerous for the children and people walking to and from their homes to catch school or city buses. By their immature, self-absorbed natures, young children do not understand that it is their responsibility to stay out of a car's way, especially in the early, darker mornings or late afternoons of winter. This is a serious accident in the making, perhaps even a death of a child. When making your decision, please consider our children and keep them safe.
Thank you, ma'am.
Do I need to wait for questions? Okay.
Thank you. All right, would anyone else like to speak against SR 49, 2025?
Good afternoon. My name is Rob Zimmer. I live at 1019 Ridgecrest Drive. I've lived there for 6 years now. I've rented the house, and last fall I purchased the house. I purchased the house and didn't move because of the nature of the neighborhood. It's very quiet. There's very, very little traffic, and we would like to keep it that way. And in my opposition to this, which, by the way, the city council has already shot down twice because of traffic. They shot it down the first time when this developer tried to rezone it from O1 or O2 to R3. And then it was shot down again when he tried to rezone it to R2 for traffic reasons. So when I first heard about this new proposal by this developer, my first thought was along the lines of John McEnroe, if anybody remembers him, when he would point to the chair umpire and say, "You cannot be serious." And I tell the developer, you cannot be serious. It was already shot down because of traffic concerns, because originally they were going to build up to 14 units with up to 28 parking spots. And when that was shot down, the next proposal by this developer was going to downsize that plan to anywhere between 7 and 9 units. And now, and it's because he was shot down twice, he was personally vindictive about it. He actually told me that I'm now going to develop this property in such a way that it will maximize the amount of traffic into and out of your neighborhood. That should be part of your consideration here. This is a vindictive plan by this individual. Now he wants to develop this property with 44 parking spaces and a 2,000 square foot garage on top of that. See, he's going, instead of going down size to try to work with the neighborhood, he's going totally against us. And he's going against you, and he's going against the city council. Please shoot this down. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, we have room for one more against. SR 49-2025, if anybody wants to speak.
Hello, my name is John McConnell. I live at 703 Ridgecrest Drive, which is directly across from where this parcel of land is, in this case, is located. On behalf of numerous homeowners in the neighborhood, I'm here to express our concerns about the site plan for this parcel. We're calling for a much more modest site plan, one that is less dense in office square footage and in the number of parking spots than the one being proposed in this current proposal. In this site plan proposal, it also does not state the number of office units being proposed, but we would argue for one unit. Like my neighbor said, we were involved with a similar case, a rezoning case with this developer, and was rejected due to overwhelming opposition from the neighborhood. We were opposed to this high-density site plan for the very same reasons. In fact, this site plan would result in an even more dense development than what was rejected last year. The neighborhood has undergone several improvements over the years, and this would detract from the neighborhood climate and safety that we would like to preserve. According to the city's adopted land use plan, areas with excessive slope should remain unimproved or be developed only under the provisions of the lowest density, given their physical constraints. The average slope in this parcel is just over 14%, meaning there are slopes below and above this average. So all that runoff, given that 40% concrete over those, that impervious surface, will just lead to a lot of runoff into the lands downstream. According to the land use plan, there should also be adequate roadways, sidewalks, or walkways to handle the traffic and to accommodate pedestrians. There are no sidewalks in this neighborhood. And so if you add 44 parking spots, think of the traffic, possibly 500,000 cars per day. That's just going to increase the traffic in the neighborhood and reduce the safety for our children, for the elderly that we have in the neighborhood, and so forth. We're just asking for a much more modest plan that scales back the use of this parcel. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, we do have an opportunity for rebuttal.
Yes, I want to try to answer a couple of those questions. This is just going to be one user, one professional office, and street department had no concerns with the existing roadways. There's a lot of access potential around here, connections to Greenwood, Cumberland Drive, and they had no concerns, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions y'all had. I don't want to put words in their mouth. If
Cal,
y'all
can
need
you
to
talk
to
about how the
street department.
stormwater is going to be handled on site?
Sure. All this flows directly west, and we will continue to do that. It is just a one-story building. I think somebody said two-story. It's just going to be a really high crawl space or maybe a retaining wall on that west property line. This developer actually owns the property to the west and has some potential to utilize that for any stormwater detention.
So the only drainage that should go down to Swift Drive, Ridgecrest Drive, would be maybe from the driveway slope. And then once it gets level, it should go towards the west.
That's right. Just the
Okay.
road water that gets in that roadside ditch, we're going to direct all the on-site water to the west property line and none toward Swift.
Can you tell me what buildings, if any, is on that piece of property right now?
None.
There's nothing. Has there historically been anything on that property?
Used to be a place called Miller's Clubhouse way back in the day.
You would know that one.
Ma'am, point of order, please.
Okay, so but as of right now, nothing's going on?
No,
there?
ma'am, nothing on there right now.
Anything else? All right, thank you, guys. Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to close out public hearing on that one and go back into regular session. Commissioners?
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, SR 49
I want to
2025
mark
passed.
that I abstained. I'm not familiar with the area and would like more time to look into it, but I don't think that my vote is right for
Okay.
this.
It's one abstention.
And Mr. Chairman, now that that's completed, I'd like to just kind of expound on this just for 1 minute. You know, this had a rezoning request within the past year on it to, in essence, downzone from office to a residential use, R2A, to the R2 subdivision next door. And the Planning Commission and staff both recommended approval, and it was disapproved at City Council. So it stays 01, and sometimes those decisions to not rezone something make another decision possible, and that's what this decision was. So that's why staff here, we look at all aspects of it, and we thought at the time getting rid of the 01 zone would be the better outcome. And unfortunately, this is coming to fruition quicker than I think a lot of the citizens or city council thought it would. All right, on to other business. We do have a unique case today. We do have the appeal of DDR, which is Downtown Design Review, case number 5, 2025. This is of the Immaculate Conception Church, 631 Franklin Street. They did apply for an appeal of certificate of appropriateness back in March 24, 2025. You have a considerable amount of information. We did send this out Friday, and I reminded everyone to take a look through it yesterday and this morning before the meeting. I know the church is here with their attorney. We've discussed this with our city legal department. We determined that this is not an open public hearing, but instead of review of the record. Unless there is something of the record I think we need to ask for any input on, this will just be discussed by the board. At this time, Mr. Chairman, I will ask Mr. Brent Clemens, a planner here who does handle the Common Design Review Board matters, to just give us a brief overview of the history of this case and kind of walk through the items in your packet. After that, we will have an opportunity to discuss anything with staff, ask any questions, and clarify anything for you. They did make this appeal within the 60-day window of the Common Design Review Board matter. And again, this is the first time to our knowledge that this has happened. So, Mr. Clemens, if you just give us the quick history of how we got to this point.
Sure, thank you. So just a timeline, the church applied for demolition on February 27th of this year to demolish the structure at 631 Franklin. That case was heard by the Common Design Review Board on March 24th of 2025. At that time, the RPC staff, myself, presented the case at the meeting with the following staff comments. Demolition of contributing structures is a board-level function. The historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property shall be avoided, and distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property shall be avoided. At that meeting, there were 2 speakers for and 3 speakers against, and the Common Design Review Board ultimately had 3 votes in favor of demolition and 7 in opposition, and those reasons were included in your packet. And as Mr. Tyndall stated, on the 60th day, we received the appeal from the church. So, and he's also accurate, this is the first of its kind. And I'll answer any questions of the staff if there are any. Everything in your packet, I will point out, was submitted by the attorneys for the Catholic Church. So they have their initial appeal and then some supplemental information as well.
When was the property, again, because I don't have the packet right in front of me, when was the property purchased?
2009, I believe, 2007, yeah.
Okay.
Under other business,
Other
it's the
business.
first 40 pages of the other business tab for all these cases are there, and the letter from the attorney is on page 38.
Yep, 2007.
Is it listed on any historic registry?
It is not. It's not in the local historic overlay or on the National Register.
Not anywhere.
No. I will point out, though, Franklin Street is not in a local historic overlay as well. So there are other, I guess, what most would consider historic structures downtown that are not designated.
The property on Main Street, that's considered historic, right? What is the one? What's it? 4th and Main, right at the corner.
Yeah, we are currently
the
in a
Methodist
historic
Church.
district
I got you.
here.
All right,
This is
The couple structures around this intersection.
yeah.
It's right there.
No historical district on Franklin out that far, though, correct?
It's part of a district on the National Register, the Clarksville Architectural District, but it's not in a local historic overlay. So local, we have Public Square, we have the building we're in now with Main Street.
Sure.
We have Madison Street, Madison Street, Emerald Hill, and Dog Hill.
And there's a few sporadic.
And there's a Port Royal in the county.
Sure.
So,
For the 4th time, I'm gonna ask you, it's not on any
it's
historical
not,
register.
not in the local historic overlay or not on the National Register.
And when was it built? I'm sorry,
Late 1800s, let's see.
but it's still not.
Deeds indicate that it was built in 1871.
I do hear well. I just wanted to make sure I heard you the 4th time.
Your wife said you didn't hear well.
Thank you.
What'd you say?
There you go.
Any other questions?
Do you know when the addition was put on?
I do not. We did let the church know, though, they could remove that addition at any time, and we could issue a staff level demolition of the addition portion. But we felt that the primary structure is a contributing structure, and that would need the board level approval.
What's staff's position?
Well, unlike a planning commission case, we don't typically come to the Common Design Review Board with a recommendation. We say this either does or does not meet the guidelines, and then A lot of times when you're dealing with aesthetics, that's more of a board decision. So I think Mr. Clemens stated it at the beginning of his, and if you'd read that again, just those, I think it was 2 or 3 items that we
So
brought
the
up.
ordinance states demolition of contributing structures is a board level function. And the staff feels that that is a contributing structure. So that's our opinion. If any structure we feel is contributing, we'll take it to the board if demolition is requested.
I can't see anything that gives this a real any historic nature, and I realize I'm looking at what they've submitted, but I'm looking at the buildings around it, the neighboring buildings, and really actually doesn't fit in that much with all the neighboring buildings. It's not on a historic registry. It's not in the historic overlay.
Do we have to have, or do we have to have a hearing on this?
No.
No,
My
no
understanding,
public
we're gonna vote though.
Okay.
I believe, if there was a specific question, we can ask the church or the applicant for a specific answer.
yeah, we
But I don't
probably do
want,
need to-
I don't
we-
want this open up to opinions and expounding
Yeah,
on the
I
situation.
think
Just
we
answer the
should.
question that's given, yes.
Well, I just want
Any other questions for the staff?
Does it have to be decided on the day? Can we postpone it 30 days?
I do not believe there's anything that says you have to
I mean, if
vote
we
on
need
it
to,
today, but if
we
you
don't
need more
to-
information,
If we
yeah.
don't need to do it 30 days, that's fine, but just, did I hear you mention that, when you said staff, you said here, but if it's not gonna do any good for 30 days, then no, but.
If there was if there's a reason for further information or something like that, and we had to defer, sure, but I would just encourage we have a lot on the agenda already for next month, and maybe dispose of this today.
We can solve this problem today one way or the other, right? See, send it back or do something, no, right?
I believe so.
I think we need to hear from the church. If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Any representatives from the church here? Come on up.
I'm Lisa Meeks, the business administrator for the church.
I'm just asking that we answer questions, and we don't
Okay.
need to redo the hearings.
That's fine.
They've already had the hearing at the Common Design Review Board, so.
Okay.
Commissioners, any questions?
I don't have any.
I just have one question. You're gonna demolish the property, and whether I'm allowed to do this or not, what's your plan with the property?
At this point, we do not have a plan for the property. It's an attractive nuisance, and we are having problems with vandalism and individuals entering the property. And so we do not have a use for the property. At this time, we do not have a specific purpose.
Okay.
Doesn't that cut down on your seating? I mean, used to, didn't they have a separate service out there?
No.
Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong building.
We
It used to be
purchased-
like a gymnasium.
No, sir.
Okay.
We've not utilized the building since we purchased it in 2007, the front portion. We utilized the back portion. The front portion has not been in any condition for us to utilize it since we purchased it in 2007.
And is it attached to the main church?
No.
Okay.
So
I
the
have a
plan
quick
is.
question. Oh, sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, you go.
So what I'm hearing is that you're saying for safety purposes and for liability, the church would like to remove that building from the premises,
Yes.
and if later on you decide to put a park or add on to the church, you want to be able to have that with a clean bill?
Yes.
Okay, that makes
Totally,
sense to
even
me.
the portion that you were utilizing,
I'm sorry?
even the portion you guys were utilizing, that will be torn down as well.
Yes, because it has damage that was caused by some water damage. So now we're not able to use that portion as well.
I know it's different in the Catholic Church, but did the session or whomever, did they approve this?
The bishop, yes. Our bishop from the Diocese of Nashville has approved for the building to be demoed.
I make a motion that we go ahead and authorize them that they can tear down the building.
I'm gonna just put this in here too. It's not on any historical register, so
It is not.
All right, we
No,
we
I'm
have-
saying I'm emphasizing that
Yeah.
as a second, that it's not on a
We have a
national
properly-
Can
or
I
a-
just say, we do have 2 buildings on our property that are on the historical register that we maintain.
Right.
But this building is not on the historical register.
Well, my second
Thank-
includes that.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comments.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion properly made second. We do have a bit of something to say.
Yeah,
Okay, go
I
ahead.
just need to add one thing. I am a member of the church. I stand to gain nothing by this. And I know that one of the members that voted on the design review board was also stated they were a member of the church. So I don't see where there's any conflict of interest in that, because again, I gain nothing from it.
Okay, noted.
Just
Motion
extra
properly made second. All those in favor for approval of demolition?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, demolition
That's
approved.
short next month's agenda.
I'm not coming.
All right, commissioners, we've got, and Mr. Chairman, without objection, we can take the next 3 items under one motion. We have 3 plans of service, final reports for annexations that were completed in 2023. It's property north of Hancock Road, east of International Boulevard, one off Garrettsburg Road and Clyde Court, and one east of International Boulevard. We will be presenting these resolutions to City Council to close out these plans of service. All items, including broadband and electric, have now been extended to these properties. We do have to open the floor here. I don't think I see anyone of interest.
Anyone like to speak on this?
All right, commissioners, we'll
Cleared
just
the
need a
house.
motion to send this on to City Council.
Okay, anyone want to make a motion?
Motion.
All right, motion, we're gonna send this on to city council. There's a properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, any
And-
against? Okay.
Final item is the
Passes.
monthly P&L from May through May
I just have
2025.
one quick question. I'm not trying to keep
Okay.
everybody, not on the P&L. I was just curious, grants. We're getting close to the end of the year. Why are we lagging so much? Did they write a check in June or what?
It's not the reporting. It's not the reporting.
Everything before July the 1st.
It's on this report down here. So budgeted 495, right? in
Yes,
grants?
this grants includes, and you see it there, it says Transportation Administration. This is where, on some years, we have been as short as $150,000 at the end of the year because TDOT may not get us the money till July or August. And then some years we'll be plus $150,000
Okay.
because of requisitions. So this is a year where we will look low this year, and next year we'll look
be
up
over-
because,
over
yes,
budget? Okay.
we'll be over budget next year. But just the way when the requisitions come in, now, it may come in, it could have come in this week. It could have come in before the end of June, and it'll be reflected in this year's budget, but
Okay.
it's just a matter of how fast they can process it. If there was any hiccups, sometimes they've held us up over a penny, so.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So
you
I can
still
get an
have-
answer from Ronnie, but I can guarantee you our requisition is in. We have just not received the check as of the end of May.
Okay, I was just curious. I know we're
Yep.
getting close to the end of the year.
That's
Spend
that's
everything
why we need that
before
additional money every year
Move we
to
accept the
float.
P&L statement.
Motion
Thank
for,
you.
motion.
Second.
Second. All right, motion to properly made second. Get out of here. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Hold on. Anybody want to public comments?
Appreciate this. second.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Motion for adjournment?
Make a motion to.
See, you're here.
Done.
Thank you all.